There it is.
All right, dude. Welcome aboard, man. Glad you're here, dude. I always like to give just a little brief overview of sort of. I saw your notes, awesome, in where we're at. I know there's a lot more in there that you know we can share. You can share.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I always say this, Dustin. And I know I've said this to you before, but you know the guys I've been around for the last 15 years or so, one of the most respectful things that they value is honesty and truth. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying it in a way that is going to hurt somebody, but I always like to ask permission that in this time that we have together, that if there's some things that are honest and can even be feel brutal, that there's permission for me to be able to speak with like that with you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's
Okay.
why I'm here.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not here to hurt anybody, but I also know that uh, a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about, is stuff that a lot of people don't have time for. So I'm glad you're here and hearing
Yeah.
your story and what's going on, in your current reality, and
Yeah.
also in just uncovering just it could be simple things. A lot of times they're in these conversations, they can be things that you've already been contemplating, working out, thinking through,
Yeah.
and then they just kind of start to come to the surface and get some clarity and direction and confidence in that. So,
Yeah.
that being said, Dustin, and from what you put in the, you know, sort of in the submission form, what's top of mind for you right now with some of that stuff? What's the most important thing that you'd like to tackle right now in your life?
I think I think yeah, kind of like you when this whole thing happened, I think everything just fell apart. So it
Yeah.
was like career, like I was, getting consistent work being a film composer, and that kind of like at the same time took a dive with the relationship. And then with that was I then processing identity. Like if I'm not going to do that, then what am I going to do? And so I think I've been trying to work on building um, possibility, or I've been in therapy, and what I'm working through in therapy is being capable. Right? I don't think I've ever felt a sense of being capable. I've always wrestled with this thought of like ever being something professional, because I grew up as the black sheep of the family. Brother dentist, sister psychologist. I didn't graduate college. I got like a .7 GPA in my first year of college because I was just playing music, and then I started touring and all this stuff. So I've had this low self worth, and like I wouldn't like my parents were right all along, kind of thing. And so wrestling with that in therapy the last year, like just building confidence and like, okay, well, if that's not my narrative, what else is there, And so I think that I'm just searching for like, what can I do? What I, I could do anything I want, because I've taught myself how to do everything to get here. So then what's next? And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question other than just the possibility being opened for whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you, dude. I'm just echoing some of the stuff that you went through, and I had an identity loss there, and I want
Hmm.
to dive a little bit, you know, into some of those things because you also mentioned about your composing and hearing you've got a couple family members that look like they're well off and
Yeah.
things are in line,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's just those feelings that are recurring, and thoughts that are recurring in that way. And so if I took a step back and I said, all right, Dustin, let's line this up, man.
Yeah.
What is it that what is it that you want?
Mm. As, so like in life, or like his career, or like
Yeah,
broad picture.
what would those doubts that are coming,
Mm.
what would what do you feel like would eliminate that because you are moving toward what you want?
I think that, well, I mean, for the longest time, I think that consistency in in what I'm pursuing, just having it be financially successful. And I think that, I've had moments, especially in composing, it's kind of like selling real estate, like where you hit like, oh my gosh, I just did this score and I got 50 grand for it, and then nothing, like, so I think consistency and in that would be amazing, and it would kind of eliminate like some of the doubt that I've had. But then also I'm not sure if that's the right path anymore. I don't know. It's just so that's hard to say, because I feel like overall I think something consistent that I could build.
Okay.
Like some stability as I'm working on stability internally. Like it would be nice to see the fruit of some stability financially.
Sure. I'm just going to challenge that a little bit, Dustin, because one of the hardest things for everybody to do, and it becomes something that can control our lives, is the externals controlling the internals versus the internals controlling the externals.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm not saying, what I'm hearing you say in a lot of this is a consistency and probably cash flow consistency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as a creative and as an artist, working with, been with a lot of creatives, it can be a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And, and you mentioned two siblings that have,
Yeah.
very, very clear cut paths,
Yeah.
of what they're doing.
Yes.
They're in a field, they're in industry.
Yep.
And in yours, there is clarity and clear cut paths. But what I'm hearing you say is there's been some drought.
Yeah.
And in particular drought in the same way like real estate. So,
yeah.
And again, if those externals control the internals, then we're always going to be, wandering around it, and really we're controlled by externals, and that's going to always mess you up.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and especially because there's part of the reason the marriage crumbled was because of that instability. So the external is like definitely influencing like the internal, because I'm watching it fall apart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I 100% know what you're saying. I've been in a similar situation there where what you were creating wasn't enough, and over a long period of time, it becomes like beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're getting tired of it. However, you've mentioned some things where you have had some wins.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the other things, especially whether it's life, business, kids, and all those things, the wins are really easy to skip past.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really easy to remember the losses. And it's really even it piles on when the losses are so closely tied to some of those internal beliefs of, you mentioned the identity, being capable, probably, not being, good enough.
Oh yeah.
Any of those, not enough of whatever. So let me ask you this. When do you feel like your internals are the most positive and forward focused?
I think that when there's not this pressure to deliver, I think that there was a time in life where we were, as partners, we were, she was working, I was working, but it felt like I could rely on that and I could create freely. And, because of that, things were coming in, you know what I'm saying? Like,
wow,
I was making money, I was doing this. And, but it was like also the safety of relying on a partner. So I but at the same time, I was like free, to create and to make money. And
okay. That's that happens a lot across all spheres of life. When there's a pressure to perform, the person, the athlete, whoever that might be, a speech, presentation, you feel like there's more, on the table. And so therefore your freedom and your ability to be you kind of gets masked a little bit.
Exactly.
And so now you've had this, a split, Now you're relying solely on yourself,
Mhm.
and you're probably looking back at your track record saying, this doesn't seem to be consistent enough for what I want for the future.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Okay. But
Right.
I'm also hearing you say, which is great awareness. And I'm gonna drop in this. I may have said it to you before, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about the gates of change in a second, because you gave me something that was super aware.
Yeah.
And this is like, when I hear you, there was a Olympic athlete I was coaching for a while, and we went through these exact same exercises of, they would hit everything in practice, then they would go to this, amateur thing, and they'd mess up.
Yeah.
And it was the same sort of mindset in there about being able to be in the moment and do what you're doing without feeling like, I got to pay this bill, I got to put XYZ in the bank.
Yes.
I've got to be able to have these moments with my kids.
Mhm.
Maybe there's potential child support, other things, right? So there's
Yeah.
these things that stack on, and that, especially as a creative, that sure doesn't feel creative, because
No.
you're
Yeah.
like in this little pig pen where you
Yeah.
are having trouble to play. Okay.
Yeah. It's survival. It's you're launched into, your nervous system is in a state of survival.
Yes. Okay. So let me give you gates of change, because we just touched on one of them. And this is going to be, Dustin, one of the mentor of mine, Brendan Burchard, always goes through this. I went through it with them, and it starts with awareness. And the next thing is acceptance.
Hmm.
And so basically the gates of change operates like this. When somebody says, the easiest way to explain it is when somebody loses a bunch of weight, hey, drop 30 pounds, you look great. What did you do? Right. And they tell you, went to the gym 3 days a week. I stopped eating sugar, whatever. We all know how to lose 30 pounds if we want to,
Yeah.
but they give you the action steps. And if you don't take the first 3 steps, then the action steps aren't going to stick. And so for our time here, Dustin, more than anything, I want things to stick. I want you to walk away and say, cool, I know there's some gaps, some things missing. I don't want to limit your creativity. I want to put some small frameworks in place where you can go back and say, okay, this is why some of this stuff isn't sticking. So the first one, awareness. The second thing is acceptance. And that's just ownership. That's like Jago, extreme ownership. Okay, I own that this is something that you're aware to. When I don't feel pressure, I'm aware to it. I start creating, and what you were just telling me, things just seem to fall in my lap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you and I have both read enough books to realize that, that seems to be happen quite a bit. It's one of the hardest things for our mind to get around, because it's like, wait, how is this work? How does this all of a sudden, it's the baseball player that goes up and the coach says, hey, just go out there and have fun. Right.
Yeah.
Go out there and swing the bat. I remember my coach used to say, just hit the ball.
Yeah.
That's it. Just hit the ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just watch what happens. And so the acceptance part is what you're saying, ownership. Great. The third part is the accountability piece. And the accountability piece is when you have somebody walking alongside you in this journey saying, cool, you said that this was something that allowed you to create more cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
It's something internal. It's not that you're ignoring what's happening around you, but what you're doing is focusing on what you can do for that in that moment.
Right.
And so now you have this accountability with someone to say, all right, this week I need to do X, Y, and Z to put myself in the best possible position.
Mm-hmm.
And so the accountability piece is those 3, awareness, acceptance, accountability, is all what has to happen before you take action. The last gate of change is action. We all want action. We all want, tell me what to do, Anthony. Tell me the 4 steps to create more cash flow. Well, they're there. We're going to back our way into it, because we don't want the externals to drive the internals.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So this part there. So let's go back like this, Dustin. I want to say, for the game we play, you got $1 million in the bank. What are you going to be doing? What would you do? $1 million in the bank.
$1 million in the bank.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I feel like first thing that comes to mind is invest it to make another $1 million, like invest in something. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good, a good question, because I feel like over the years it's changed, right? So I feel like my value system now is more towards investment and getting a house for the family, and giving as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it, I think.
What lights you up?
Um, what lights me up? I think what lights me up has been just being able to freely create and do that. I think that's been just such something that has just lit me up. But also, though, I'm starting to feel a fire for helping people
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
what I'm going through,
Yeah.
and I'm sure, I mean, that's why you're here too. And so I feel like it's changing a bit, but what has lit me up is being able to create. And because when I'm creating and I'm making stuff, and every single film I've worked on, everybody's been so stoked and
Yeah.
like, man, I'm going to tell this person about you. I'm going to tell this person about, and that's all good. But I feel like not so much things external validation, but like I'm creating something from within that is good,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
that just lights me up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, man, because what we want is the million's great. And there's going to be some things that you've learned over the years to be able to invest that,
Yeah.
as we go on, we want to do those things, and that's great. However, you also have, kids that are looking to you to say, how are you leading them? So what I'm hearing you say there a little bit is, and just, correct me if I'm a little off here, but
Yeah.
it's the creative process, could be, in scoring, could be in the ability to create what you do in music.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's also this generosity piece of being able to help other people.
Yeah. Yeah. And so much so that I'm like, I've also looked into like school communities because I also want to help. Like I have this name of like mental music and mentals where I'm helping creatives with their identity process. I'm,
Yeah.
doing courses on like how to license stuff, and you're a bedroom musician, like how do you make money, and just kind of going back through what I've done, and but also the piece of identity, like
Yeah.
people really struggle, creatives really struggle with identity, and it's a block. So
Yeah.
I've looked into like stuff like that where I can just give back.
Okay. Good. Yeah. That to me there, what you're centering on is something very purposeful. Would you agree?
Yes, that has purpose. Yeah.
Okay. So we take the bills off the table, and that stuff's, cash in the bank. We're looking at purposeful things, obviously for you, and then the next generation. Would that hit home for you?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Tell me the last time when that happened to you.
Which one?
Like a purposeful creative moment.
Purposeful creative moment. I think recently, let's see. I think recently, I mean, I've had a handful of like divorced guys, I've just been connecting with guys. I've never done that before. And so I've been going to coffee with guys more, and they're just kind of opening. And I think I've been able to help process with them and hold space. And I think that's really important. I don't know if that's so much creative, but I think maybe creating a space, but yeah, I think more of that. And I mean, I'm always having like other producers in music, like, hey dude, how do you license stuff for film? Like that's a constant as well. Like, so I'm in that space answering questions,
Okay.
a lot. But
Okay.
so I mean, those two I think are the ones that are normal.
Yeah. Obviously the one where you're engaging, you're helping, you're being generous with your time and your knowledge and your efforts. Purposeful, awesome. These are things that Dustin, what we're really building is sort of the why of Dustin. Like, why does this matter? Why is this important? Why is this going to get you out of bed in the morning? Why is this going to get you, and it's also going to really drill down and the focus, for what you have and what you're building, because I always say, I tell this to everybody, John 10:10, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And I would say distract.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's the great part in that I've come, you have life and have it more abundantly. But the most people are in that distracted state. And
Yeah.
because they don't have a clear map of where they're going
Right.
and really drill down on the clarity of it. So
Yes.
let's ask this for a second. Let's dive into the cash flow side of where you're at, and let's dive into what do you see the difference to be when you said that before there was another income and you felt like work was coming to you versus now? Is there any activities that are different for you in both of those spaces?
Like something that happened, or
Well, maybe I can pin it on this. I always look for levers of growth. When you do this happens. And usually the picture that I give is the film Goonies, where it's toward the end of the movie, based on a true story, obviously.
yeah,
Goonies.
obviously, yeah.
And so they're out there and they got to play a note. And if they play the right note,
Yeah.
the thing opens up. And that's a business. That's levers of growth. We're always trying to say, when I do this, I notice this happens.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. That's a hard one, because I think creatively, like the more you work, the more you get in a lot of the times, and the more people are taking notice. But if you're not working, then people forget about you. So I think that at the time that it was booming, I had a lot of jobs coming into me. And I mean, I would reach out a bit and kind of network, but not really. It was more word of mouth. So I feel like it was a lot of luck. So it's hard to like scale luck, you know what I'm saying? Which is hard for creative businesses like that. Because in my field, you can't really promote yourself, or you can network, but it's more word of mouth. And so, yeah, that's what's hard. That's unstable, because there's not even like a way to like market yourself. I mean, well, I guess there is a way, but yeah.
Okay, let me ask this question. Who do you know that does what you do, that's doing, let's say you're at the 100,000 mark and they're doing 200,000 or 300,000.
Yeah.
Who do you know that's doing that in your space?
Yeah, it's one of my best friends that got me into it. He's a composer for Handmaid's Tale, and he's been nominated for Grammys, and we played in bands together. And he's been a great resource, honestly. Yeah, and it's hard to just sit and work with him, because he's also like, I don't know, it's a lot of luck, like, so, I'm constantly asking, like, hey bro, what can I do now? Where should I put my energy?
Yeah.
I don't know, just create stuff.
Yeah. Is there anybody else?
No one I know, really.
A little bit further ahead of you. Somebody you I always say, use all the brains you got and all the brains you can borrow.
He's the only guy I know that is doing this. There's a community that I've been meaning to like connect with, called the Composers Diversity Collective, which they're all working in LA. They're on TV shows, but they're like, different ethnicities. And so I would qualify because I'm half Chinese, and so I can hang with them. But guys like that I've been meaning to connect with. I haven't done it yet, but I don't really know a lot of people.
Okay, that's great. You just uncovered a little clue.
Yeah.
So there's a couple clues, and there's a couple things that are probably, because you got to remember, what got you here won't get you there.
Right.
And I get it. I get creatives, man. They when it comes to systems and some of those things, it feels like it's the hardest thing in the world for them to do. However, the good ones have them in some capacity, and the good ones understand how to teach other people. So there's something that is out there. I think you uncovered something there where I've been meaning to talk to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
That's an uncovered point. Another uncovered point is reviewing back, and this is what I do with a lot of clients as well, is I have them review all their clients that they've had over the past 2 years, and line by line go through each one of them and find something that you can talk about with them in some capacity, in some format, by either sharing value with them or something that's going on, or just creating conversations. And part of the creating a conversation is something that I go over with people. And it's called the 5 non-negotiables. And it's basically you creating 5 non-negotiable things you do every single day that's only going to take you toward where you want to go.
Okay.
And so if we took a step back, because now we're kind of going into the avenues of how to get there. But I think what's really important is, and I think we've touched on it, but it's clearly defining what you want to get to. And if we're saying, what does maybe it's music composition or one of the verticals that you create money, is to say, what do you want that vertical to be? What do you want to make?
Sure. Oh, like a number amount?
Yeah.
What do I want? Like realistically?
Don't think about, because what we're also looking at as well is you've had past wins in that area.
Yeah.
And you may look back, a lot of times we can look back and we can kind of trace how that happened. So I don't want you to look at the losses here. I want you to look at the wins and say, okay, what's a marker that would be a win in this area of my life?
Yeah, like a number amount, like a dollar amount. I mean, I have always thought if I could just make 150 grand a year, then I would feel super successful at it,
Yes.
because that's hard to do. I mean, a lot of dudes don't make that, yeah.
It's hard till it's not, and then you go up higher.
Yeah, then you do it. Yeah.
So there's 2 parts of this. There's the one part where we're projecting the future and we're saying, hey, 150 is really something that I'm going for, and it's something that I want to clearly define. Great. The other side is the undercurrent of feeling that you're worthy for 150.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And so what'll happen is you will look to 150, but then when some of the work comes or some of the no's come or whatever it may be, you'll come back and you'll say, oh yeah, I'm just not there yet.
Yeah. Right.
And so then there's this collision. There's this internal collision versus what's happening on the outside.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What have you been doing, or what have you been trying to do to eliminate that negative internal dialogue?
Yeah. Honestly, working in therapy and giving attention to childhood wounds. I mean, that's real. Like, just clearing the narrative of where the lies started, where the internal, where the reconfirming experiences happen, and trying to change the narrative of like, no, that's not me, so yeah, just trying to actually heal those parts is what I'm currently doing.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Let me throw this into the mix on there. So would you agree that when you think about bad things, you feel worse, and when you think about good things, you feel better?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So in this future forecasting of, and I'm not diminishing, childhood and all those kinds of things, because I've had plenty of those things myself.
Yeah.
However, do you have a clear picture blueprint of who Dustin is becoming?
I think it's becoming clearer as a man, not necessarily career wise, because I feel like that's all changing. It could be changing and fluctuating, but I think as a man, yes, stable, confident, safe in here.
Yeah.
And secure, and with all that internal work, successful, you know?
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
What, okay. So do you know what Dustin, if we walked out to the person you're becoming, have you scripted out what does Dustin talk like? What does he think like? What does he dress like?
No.
Who does he hang around with? What does he do with his kids? What does he do as his schedule for the day? What does that man with $1 million in the bank, what does he do?
I've never thought about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of the future, and this is where this is where most people are just stuck, because reality of pain is real.
Yeah.
Losing your job is real. Not having
Yeah.
cash in the bank is real. Missing it, or having stuff happen to you as a child is real. It's not like you're imagining that. It's like, holy smokes, this is it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the way around that is by future focusing on what you are becoming. Like detailed, has to be detailed. What do you talk? What do you dress? What do you what do you like in the house? What does your schedule look like? What does a $150,000 composer's schedule look like? What does he talk like? What is he reading? What's he doing at night? What is he not doing? What distractions are eliminated? Because the more that you go back here and try and fix the past, then the less time here is you have in becoming. And what you think about expands, it grows. Where your focus goes, your energy grows.
Yeah.
Is an easy saying to say that, but in realities and in scripting the future, it's harder. And so a few things that I'd put your way, and tell me what you think about this. So when was the last time you audited your mouth in a day?
Never.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was the last time you audited your thoughts in a day?
I've been trying to. It's just, I don't think that's a hard. I don't think I've done that.
Okay, I'm not here to.
Yeah.
I'm not here to that. What I do want to uncover with the internals is, there's a reason why Muhammad Ali would run around and say, "I'm the greatest."
Yeah.
It wasn't just a publicity stunt. It was literally internal dialogue going into external future.
Yeah.
And I guess what I would sense with you, and what I would, done this with lots of guys, is, I'm really big on, the secular society would call it affirmations. What am I speaking about? And speaking doesn't do it. You have to believe what you speak.
Yeah.
You have to have a knowing that the future that you're believing in, the future that you want, and the revenue that's being created, the dad that you're going to be, the home that your environment is, the people that you want to work with, and having those lists, having those things that are very clearly accessible for you. So one of the things that I would probably, add in here would be, confession decks. What scriptures are bringing you into the future, and how, and the frequency of those words coming out of your mouth and into your heart. Because when you get squeezed, it says, out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth speaks.
Yeah.
And we're like a tube of toothpaste. When you squeeze it, something's coming out. We have to identify what that something is, so that we know, okay, what's in there, what's in our heart to come out of our mouth.
Yeah.
And so to begin to flip the script is to say, okay, this is what we're going to create. And there's some affirmations that'll be built around your future, who you're becoming. There's scriptures that will be attached to those things. And we also have to remember this. And, I'm a big, somewhat Dispenza guy in neuroscience and those sorts of things. And what I find is to be really interesting. And it happens sometimes with kids. We'll notice it. They'll tell you a story about something that happened. You'll be like, that's actually not what happened.
Yeah.
And so I find that with my kids all the time, though. They'll be like, no, Dad said this. I was like, never said that, bro. Never said that. So 50% of our memories aren't accurate. And so that's something to understand a little bit, because a lot of times we're believing stories that aren't necessarily true. We're trying to figure out, rather what we can do is we can build a future into the story that we want, the story we want to create, the person we want to become. And what we're going to do with those is we're going to create that with your mouth, with your heart, and with writing out the plan of what you want for your future.
Nice.
Who you want, write it down, get it around you, get it in your car, in your house, around your place. Those are the things that you continually start to see. And even the picture I have now here, Dustin, is there might be guys that you worked for in the past, and I don't know if those are whiteboards or what you have in the back, or maybe they're just sound things. They're probably sound things. Yeah, you're like a professional. But sometimes it's creating those hit lists of, these are the people that I want to work for. These are the types of projects I want to do. These are the things that are around me that are then drawing your mind into where you're going next. And and then we take a step back and we say, why would that matter to you, Dustin? If you were working with X, Y, and Z, why would that matter to you?
Sure.
Why would it matter to you?
Oh, like you're asking me
right
now?
Yeah. You tell me. Why would it matter?
Okay. So, that's a good question. Yeah, because I've always wanted to, like, a big dream was to work on like the Black Mirror TV episodes, right? Like,
great.
But why would that matter? It would matter because it would say something about the level of success I have and being able to create at that level. And with it also comes a dollar amount. So I think that's the only reason why it would matter, because I'm recognized as a working composer who is able to compose for these narratives,
Yeah. Would it also be said that you want to use your gifts at the highest level?
Yes. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well,
yes.
Not even for the recognition, but because you are talented and you're good, Dustin. If you look at if you look into the past and you look at the things you have created, you've created at a very high level.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're not actually even creating something new. We're just creating consistency of things that you've done.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So creating consistency means that you've already done it. You've already been approved. Your work has already been checkmarked.
Sure.
You're already in the cycle and in the system.
Right.
So now it's about you saying, I've already done this. Why can't I do it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
That seems more true.
Yeah. Why can't this happen again? Why can't this composer or thing, make it happen again? And then then it's building into, like you just said, this score or show. Okay, great. So these are things that we need to get you to dream again. Because if dreaming stops with you, then it's going to stop with your kids.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And you're going to lead them into what dreaming looks like, for whether they're 4 or whether they're 40.
Yeah, right.
And I know that if I was playing defense, we'll play a game quickly. Okay. So the story goes like this. I grew up on the south side of Chicago in the 90s. And so the Bulls were everything. I mean, they were everything. So I'm a huge Jordan guy.
Okay.
So the story's here about Jordan. So Jordan would practice, and he would have spots on the floor where he would shoot, and they would be his spots. He shoots from there, it's pretty much going in. So the defense knows that. And so Jordan not only knows where he wants to get to his spots, but he knows that the defense is going to try and do everything they can to not let him get there. And so they're going to bump him, they're going to foul him, they're going to do whatever they can. And that's the game that you're in, because you have, in the same way as Jordan, Dustin, you have spots on the floor where you hit. And you have a defense against you. And a lot of times it's your own self. So if you were playing defense against you, how would you beat you?
if I was playing defense against me. So if I'm trying to block my shots,
Yeah.
or how would I get around the guy who's trying to block my shots?
So let's take it into the setting for work or for whatever. If you were going to beat you in this scenario of, let's say, work, what
Mhm.
would you do to beat you?
Um, yeah, yeah, to like make me not win, right? Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yeah. Miss
I
your shot.
would, yeah, just I remind myself of all the failures, and like uh, um, reflect back, why I'm not enough in this, or um, why this is gonna why this is a gamble and gambles don't pay off. Yeah,
Good.
yeah, 100%.
Okay. This is a question that every business owner, I ask them every single week. How would you beat you?
Hmm.
And so once we know how you would beat you, then we start to drive and move toward what those what would make it a win.
Hmm.
What would keep you winning? So if you're saying remind you of failures, then what are some things that would make you win?
Hmm. I mean, yeah, remind myself of successes, right? I guess
Okay.
the opposite.
Okay. Is there any procrastination in there?
Of course, yeah,
What does it
yeah.
sound like?
It sounds like I'm just gonna spend the next 7 years trying and then getting nowhere and not providing for my family, because that's how I spent the last 7, 8 years trying to build, and like now I'm here. So
Yeah.
so like to be able to dream again would require double downing on myself, and I don't think I'm a safe bet.
Yeah.
you know
Okay. I'm going to give you, after this, I'm going to send you this blog I wrote about 15 years ago about the value of you.
hmm.
And I got curious because a friend of mine had a organ transplant, and I ended up seeing the bill, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, how are they going to pay this? But it basically got me into this dark hole of researching our human bodies
Hmm.
and the value of your body. If you were to part it all out and sell it, plasma, blood,
Yeah.
organs, everything, right?
Yeah.
And people, there's books on this, so it's
People do.
it's not just like a dark concept.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's about $72 million.
Wow. That's crazy.
And I like to tell people that because when you don't feel like you're worth betting on, you have to remember that, God really created you as a $72 million asset.
Wow.
And I think also what I heard you say earlier with you want to perform at a high level. And one of the biggest stories that always got me was Matthew 25 with the parable of the talents.
Yes.
And I always read it like I was the guy that doubled theirs, but the reality was I was the guy that hid mine. And I
Yeah.
was scared and I was afraid of failure and all those things. And
Yeah. Same.
so,
Same.
yeah, I read it like it's, oh yeah, I'm the guy with two. I doubled it. I didn't
Yeah.
double it. I got
Yeah.
scared and I buried everything. So
Yeah.
I think once we become aware of what we said here, there's mental loops, there's this negative thought pattern. And I think as you begin to script out the future, that
Hmm.
we drill down on your daily habits of your mouth and your mind,
Hmm. Yeah. Right.
to create a story that's worth writing.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Okay. So, um, what do you think you need to do that you're not doing to create 150?
Um, well, I need to get more work. um, get on a TV show or something, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there things that you're avoiding to do to get there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, I think that I kind of just stopped pursuing that when this started coming down. So, I mean, everything. Yeah, I've avoided trying. I used to just create a bunch and send it to directors. And I, when we were having these talks of separation, like, I'm like, oh man, I have to step this up. So I got an agent who's the same agent as my friend who does the Hulu shows. So he's just,
Right.
he's there, but he's also, it's hard for him to get me work because I don't have it. Once you get a TV show, then you're in and you can get other work. But getting that first job is like super hard. So I haven't even put effort into trying to create more. I've just been like in survival, picking up other random jobs and, trying to prepare for separating for good,
Sure.
So
Do you
yeah,
think you can create?
I might be able to. I don't think I've allowed myself to try because it feels so attached to a failure of marriage,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and what made this crumble to begin with. So that's a hard one to sift through.
Yeah.
Even though I just did like a month ago, like something came in and I'm like, oh wow, I just got paid, 50 grand for this commercial. That's great. But it was hard to do.
Great.
Um, but
Great.
yeah.
Okay. Dude, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm actually, yeah. Okay. Is there time that you could use for this?
To create?
Mhm.
Yes, I think I could sketch out some time for it for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on this, so I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. Would you agree that there's been some great music created out of pain?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's like all the music there is, right?
Okay. Okay. All right. I wasn't sure, but you're in there.
Yeah.
I just sense that there's an ability, there's potential there.
Yeah, definitely could be.
I also would say that somebody doesn't pick somebody up to work with if they don't think that they can make money from them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this guy at Hulu or whatever, there's a few things. So step one, if we're going to review this just for the sake of time and everything, step one is, I would say, building out, and I think there's a document I can get to, building out the mission, vision, values for yourself would be a step one, as well as creating some smart goals of who you're becoming.
Yeah.
Because we've got to get you looking into the future so that you just don't keep getting dragged into the past.
Yeah.
And once we have those, then we need to create visuals of that, of what you want.
Okay.
I don't care if it's names of composers. I don't care if it's a dollar amount. I don't care if it's something you want to do for your kids. We've got to keep the future alive visually.
Okay.
So that you see it in your house. Then what we'll add into that is these daily confession decks, affirmations, creating your future with your mouth. Your mouth is going to create your future.
I like that.
And it's created your current reality.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll say a few things, and I know you know this, but I'm hearing it on my side is everything is hard.
Totally.
Everything's hard. So
here's the reason why no. Right?
Yeah, everything's
There's
hard.
Always a reason why no. Yeah.
So pick the ones that are the most purposeful for you.
Yeah.
Pick the ones that are in the dream category, right? Pick the ones that really inspire you to be able to do more. and that's going to give you the legs to move in that direction. So
Yeah.
when you see fear, or you hear fear, or you hear procrastination, or any of those things, those are the signs of where you got to go.
Okay.
Because most of us, my hands up, every time I saw something, fear of failure, you're not good enough, I backed away.
Of
And
course.
so based on where our current situation is, it's gotten you here, no problem. So now what's hard is we have to almost trick our mind into saying, all right, if it's fear, I got to go towards it, because I know what happens if I don't. I know what happens if we don't. So once those mission, vision, we add in the scripts, these things are this is gonna be the paintbrush of the future.
Yeah.
And then what I believe that we'll start to create is this kill list of people you've worked with. Go through it, pray through it, and see if there's anything that you see differently. Is there anybody you need to reach out to? Does it lead you down a different trail? Does it do those things? And see what comes up with that, so that you can create whatever you're wanting to create next. Okay.
Yeah.
So we mentioned possibility in the beginning. So everything out of your mind, out of your mouth, has to be congruent to possibility.
Right. Okay.
Otherwise, it's just friction. It's just like, it's like a collision course. Your internals are fried, and your externals are driving it.
Yeah.
Right. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. And so I would say at this present moment, without like burying you with a million things to do, these would be the introductory steps to creating Dustin 2.0.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Taking that time, and I think we both agree on this. Pain is a gateway drug to great music.
Right. Right.
So you're in it.
Yeah.
You might as well use it.
Might as well use it. Yep.
Might as well use it.
Okay.
And then pray into these specific places where you want to get music in.
Okay.
And I think we'll start to craft those things in there. Is there any questions you have for me? Any thoughts in your head?
No, I think that is such a good place to start. Yeah. Yeah. How often do you want to meet?
Well, let's see how you do on this one. Yeah. Let's get you. It's not going to be perfect inside, Dustin.
Totally.
I'm not saying you'll never feel pain.
Yeah.
What I am saying is that the future that I know you're dreaming. And I know, like you mentioned a couple things in me that kind of sputtered out. Like, I really wanted to do this one day. Okay. Yeah. We gotta get those things out of there so you can see them, so that they can pull you into probably what God gave you some of those tools to do.
Right. Okay.
And when that stuff starts to clear out, and you start to look at the things that you're wanting to create rather than some of the misses, then that stuff will start moving in that direction. I also want to write down your top 10 highlights in the past couple of years, where you were like, wow, this came through. This was significant. And I say that in a way with the Bible, because as you read through, especially the Old Testament, they would set up altars when great things happened as a remembrance to God.
Yeah.
And in the New Testament says that we give God thanks in all things, and in good and bad. However, for our mind, it's really easier for us to forget those great moments, those wins, those tours, those things that were great, that were incredible moments. And those are going to be the altars that you then look to build in the future.
Okay.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
What other question?
What other question? Well, I guess other question, I guess it's a bigger thing, is like, I do want to, I think that this is great, and like, running towards the creative again, because it's been totally squashed. But like, how do I differentiate between staying on this path of creativity, and then, or is it a opportunity to switch altogether? Because I feel like also what has been broken down is this identity piece. Like, I have to do this, I have to do music to be a successful person, because this is what I've been given. My family members have been given other things. This is what I've been given. But what if there's a different path? Because like, suddenly I'm interested in coaching, and or like, putting together courses, and like, so I guess energy wise, like, what if, I guess it's the what if, like, what if I'm still chasing this dream that I shouldn't be chasing anymore? Like,
I would first backtrack and say, when you have intentionally, and when you've gone through awareness, acceptance, accountability, and action on a game plan for something specific that you want,
okay,
and you put together real parameters, not like, hey, I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying like, let's get trying out of the way. I'm doing this. This is what I do. This is who I am. We're not trying anymore. We're grown ass men. Like, we're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, and if you want, on the sides, based on, a lot of this is based on schedule as well. And and I would also say that if, or when, a couple, because I look at levers for growth. So when this score hits, does that make it easier to create a school group or harder to create a school group?
Right. Sure.
When this hits, does this give you more opportunity or less opportunity?
Right.
So initially, we gotta look at what's going to create the most opportunity for you. And then, so that you don't have a lot of these little fires going, and draining your energy.
Yeah, I feel that too.
So you have to manage that, and energy. I always talk about guys with, an energy audit. What is giving you energy, and what is taking energy away? And really understanding that we want to drill down on the things that are giving us energy. I could talk about this all day long. I do this all day. And I think, where you're at, I think, there is opportunities for coaching. I think, I think in that there is, but it also is, you get a lot more opportunity when you put some other wins on the board.
Yeah, totally.
And you have wins on the board, which is why I want you to remind yourself of your wins on the board. Yeah. Because I was there in the same way. I was looking at, I remember right around 2020, and I had just started coaching, and I looked at my resume and I was like, oh, it's not good enough. Yeah. Meanwhile, I was, running a global teams across 5 continents, and, at the peak of, music for Hillsong, and, and working in these, places, but I didn't, and then having a Fortune 500 in my past that I work with, and writing YouVersion devotionals for 250,000 subscribers. Wow. But I didn't have enough. I wasn't enough.
Still didn't feel enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So there wasn't those areas. There was internal things that were issues for me, that I was like, yo, I'm not attached to these. Let's build this thing in, so that, and these are the moments to do it, so that you can go do the things that are in your heart. And I think too, Dustin, sometimes what happens is when you don't have the clarity internally, then externally feels like, well, maybe I could do 100 things, or 50 things, or how do
or survival.
It's survival. It is
trying to survive. Yeah.
It hurts, and it hurts. Yeah. And I was the same way. I'd be like, oh, I can do consulting, or I can do this. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, let's get in here, because I really believe that also the Lord's going to show you some things. It says, when we seek him, in James, it says, ask for wisdom, and he'll give it. And as we seek and sit close with the Lord in specific things and specificity of your life and where you're going and what's going on, you're going to hear some things, man. Yeah. You're just going to hear some things. It might be with your kids. It might be composing music. It might be in the shower. But as you become clear about you saying, now's the moment that this changes and shifts, I'm making a decision, things move.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Instead of reactionary, you're the driver. You're the director.
Right.
You're the director.
Right. That's good. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Anything else?
I think that's a lot to think about.
I gave you a lot.
Yeah.
I gave you a fire hose.
No,
bro.
that's awesome.
I gave
Is
you a
this
fire hose.
is this video? Can I go back and?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll
Okay,
send it to you. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, go through those things. Hit me with any questions you have as you're starting to peruse it and go through it.
Yeah.
And let me know whatever I can do to help. All right.
All right, we'll do.
Are you all right if I pray before you go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lord, thank you for Dustin for our time. And Lord, you're a great God. You got great plans for him. And you do great things. And so, Lord, I just thank you that his heart is in the right place. His mouth is speaking what you have for him. He's able to see the impossible. He's able to be courageous because your word says it. And he's able to lead his kids. And the joy of the Lord is his strength. And so, Lord, I just thank you that he has great sleep and rest, and has creative ideas, Lord, for the right people, the right place, the right time. Psalms 37. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
dude, keep me posted. Let me know. Any questions? I'm serious.
Okay, we'll
All
do.
right.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
dude. Love
Thank
you,
you,
man. See you, brother.
Appreciate it.
Ciao.